As I was preparing for tonight's service and thinking about what I wanted to say, I think I had about 5 or 6 different sermons pop up over the course of the last 5 or 6 days. And as late as about 3:30 today, I still had 5 or 6 different sermons, but I'm not going to do all 5 or 6. But what I'd like to do is just start with just a memory, and then I'm going to somehow connect it to some of the things that I was contemplating this week. So, a number of years ago, I found myself entering an anechoic chamber, a room. And if you've ever been in one of these rooms, it's a very strange sensation. You walk in, and the silence is palpable. Because generally we are bombarded with waves of sound, and in one of these chambers, all that bombardment, all the echoes, the reflections of sound that normally would be bouncing off of surfaces around us stop. And so this daily bombardment that we get ceases, and you feel the difference. Now, perhaps you've never been in one of these chambers, but I suspect many of you have been to live rock concerts at least once in your life. And even if you plugged your ears to protect your eardrums, you might recall that following the concert, as a result of the bass guitar and bass drum, it felt sort of like you had been punched numerous times over the course of the evening, and your body is almost sore from the experience because of the waves of sound that are pummeling you during the course of the concert. Anybody have that experience? Yes, particularly people that have gone to a lot of those concerts. Hopefully you're wearing your ear protection. So why was I thinking about sound this week? And part of it emanated from chapter 19, verse 3 and 4 and 5, where we're told, first of all, that Moses was instructed by God to tell the house of Jacob and the house of Israel these instructions, and then it ends with the phrase, Shema B'Koli, if you hearken to my voice, if you listen, if you hear my voice, you will be entered into this covenant with me, and you will endure. And then when I juxtapose that against the opening of the Aser Dibrot, the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, where it says, Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am the Lord your God who delivered you from Egypt. It doesn't say it's that the I is this personal pronoun. It isn't a thing. It is an entity with whom we interact. And then shortly thereafter, it says that we should not do things that are based on our eyes. So we should not make graven images. That's something that we would see, something that we would worship. And the Adonai that is in this framework is not seen, but yet experienced. And the experience of the deliverance from Egypt, I would suggest to you, was a very loud experience. Imagine for a moment that, this was last week's Torah portion, but imagine for a moment that you are being pursued by Pharaoh and his chariots and horses, and they are chasing you. And imagine that you are in fear for your very existence. So what sounds would we hear? We would hear the hooves of the horses in the various kinds of earth, whether it was hard or soft, we'd still hear it. You would hear the snorting of the horses. You'd hear the people riding the chariots making plenty of noise because they want to scare you. And you'd hear the people around you screaming for their lives. And very soon after that, you would hear the water coming over the horses and destroying the horses and the men. And only then, when you knew that there wasn't this imminent threat, would you be able to look around and go, oh my God, look what just happened. We were saved. And so it's this God, the God of freedom, that we are told that we are supposed to be thinking about when we receive this covenant. It wasn't the God of anything else. It was the God of freedom, who brought us out of the land of Egypt. So if you think about the fact that we're not supposed to make graven images, we're not supposed to have idols, and then later, of course, in the Ten Commandments, we're not supposed to covet either. So what is that generally based on? It's not generally based on if you close your eyes, you're going to know what your neighbor has. I doubt it. You're not going to hear them and what they're wearing. You're not going to hear their tie. You're not going to hear what they have. You would do it through your eyes. So it is the eyes that the Ten Commandments are sort of telling us, avoid the visual, but bring in what you hear. So the verses that I quoted, and this strange thing about, I mentioned the house of Jacob, and there are a couple traditions about this pairing of the house of Jacob and the house of Israel. It's the only place in Torah where you have this pairing in verse 3 of chapter 19. And one tradition, Rashi says, well, the Beit Yaakov is really referring to women, and Beit Yisrael is referring to men, and that men and women need to be instructed differently because they have different ways of understanding and so on and so forth. And so this was the medieval commentator, the French commentator Rashi's take on it. And then a later medieval commentator, Baal HaTurim, says, no, Beit Yaakov is sort of it's a numeric picture for us. So let's take the word apart. Yaakov, Yud equals 10 for those that don't know. And how many commandments are there? 10. Oh, 10. Well, 10 that are given here, right? In the Aser Dibrot, there are 10. And then the ayin and the vet and the kuf, bet is 2, so add it up, 2. Ayin is 70, how much is that? 72. We're leaving out the 10 for now. So it's 72, and kuf is 100. 100 plus 70 plus 2 equals 172. So Baal HaTurim says, the Yud says there are 10 commandments, and the rest of the word Akov says 172 words in the 10 commandments. Well, check it out for yourself. There are exactly 172 words in the 10 commandments. And so it's true, but does that help us? So I would offer this suggestion, because I think it's a very unique verse, and I think it's an important verse, but I think it says something else to us, and that is the following. Beit Yaakov, or if we think about our connection to Jacob, who was Jacob? Jacob was uncertain. Jacob was ultimately the wrestler. That's how he got the name Yisrael. But with whom did Jacob wrestle? Jacob wrestled with God. So from my perspective, what's happening here is we are instructed that each and every day we are to be in that place between Jacob and Israel. Why? Because except for the purest of the pure, every one of us is somewhere between Jacob and Israel. It's only the highest, the most holy of holy people, of which maybe there are 36, I'm not sure, but maybe. Maybe we have the Lamed Vavniks, maybe. But if not, they don't exist. So we are somewhere between there. So it's our job to do the wrestling, to take the Ten Commandments and all the other commandments and find ways for us to do what? To listen, Shema B'Koli, to listen to his voice, to God's voice, and to show, because it's Valentine's Day, to show our love. And how do we do it? We show our love by being focused upon with our ears, the words of Torah, the words of the Ten Commandments, and the commandments that we have been given to observe. And observe is not a visual thing, it is a whole body experience. So it's that wish that I have for all of us, that we be in that place between Jacob and Israel, and that we take the commandment to observe and do, to listen and do. Shema B'Koli, to obey. It's another way of saying obey, but to listen to God's voice and hearken to it. The same way that we say Shema, the same way that Moses said, Ha'azinu, in his last statement to us, listen, please, because he was about to die, and he knew that we weren't getting it right. It's our job to get it right. It's my hope and prayer that we do that each and every day, make that step.